Hi friends, this is Callie. Thanks so much for joining me today. I've got a fun interactive card using this reverse confetti deerly set. Now as you can see, those kissing deer are one image. So I'm going to stamp twice and then color the opposite deer and then cut them apart to bring them together as individual pieces. So for the coloring, super straightforward, and I'm doing my usual, laying down the darkest color first, adding the medium shade and then the lighter shade and blending as needed to get the look that I want. We're just gonna do that super quick. The images on the legs and the scarves and all the accessory pieces are pretty small as far as area goes, so the blending is gonna be super easy and straightforward. And then on the trees, I'm just gonna do lots of flicking with my green to emulate the look of branches, so it's very quick that way too because not a lot of blending is necessary. All right, I'm gonna skip right past that and show you the more complicated part of the card, which is the interactive portion. And I'm using dies that you probably already have on hand. So before we get into the interactive portion, I want to show you the process of cutting these deer apart and also hiding those lines. I don't know about you, but I love using my Sakura Jelly Roll white gel pen to hide blemishes from coloring or from stamp marks that I don't want on my images. So that's exactly what I'm using right now to hide those lines from the stamped images. I'm just going to run my Jelly Roll over that and kind of paint the white back onto those stamp lines. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to go ahead and add some white gel highlight to all of my images and set them aside because I'll be using other things for a while to create my background. Okay, so now I've got my Simon Says Stamp A2 masks, which I've attached to a white card panel, and I'm going to ink blend some Distress Oxide to create my background. I'm using Tumbled Glass and Mermaid Lagoon, and I'm just going to blend the two together, and then I'll spritz it lightly with some water drops using my Distress Sprayer, and that will create kind of a snowy look. And I could have splattered some paint, but really I was in a hurry while I was making this card because it is so dark here, and I was worried about the light going out. You know, you kind of worry about the light going out at 3 p.m. nowadays in the winter, so. This die here is from the Simon Says Stamp Stitch Slopes and Hills set, and I'm just going to use some residual blue ink from my dauber to add a little bit of color to the top of that panel. And then I've got my mechanism piece, which is that second piece under the hillside piece. I'm going to slide it under so that it's not showing and then trim it off so that I have an area to work with that I know I can use for the mechanism. So I'm going to set that slope and hillside portion aside so that I can show you how I create my double slider mechanism. I've got that piece, and now I'm using the Sentiment Labels dies from Simon Says Stamp. And these are perfect for pull tabs and all of that jazz for interactive cards. So I just thought that would be a fun tip to share. I'm going to cut 2 notches using the larger die on the ends of this panel, and then use the smaller die to create my actual pull tab. All right, so I've got those pieces done, and I'm going to go ahead and pull out my MFT Interactive Labels stamp set so that I can stamp the word pull at the end of this pull tab. And then we can start putting together our interactive mechanism for this card. So to make the pull tab visible and hidden on the base without it sticking out, I'm just going to cut a little notch on that slope panel, and so that way we can see the word pull and be able to make it a little bit more user-friendly. All right, for the mechanism piece, you're going to need a plastic bag of some sort. So I've got a Ziploc bag here that I'm just going to cut down, and it's about maybe a 1/4 inch, between a 1/4 inch and 3/4 inch, just whatever will fit between the notches. So I'm going to go ahead and run that around those 2 notches, which act as a belly band, and you can adhere that in place using some sticky double-sided adhesive tape. I'm using a score tape for this particular project throughout because I find it to be a very good adhesive for projects like this. You can use any double-sided adhesive that you have. So when you go and adhere this belly band onto this tabbed mechanism portion that you've done, make sure that it can slide back and forth really well and that it's not too tight. You want it to be able to slide freely but not too loose. Okay, and then we're going to slide that adhesive portion all the way to the very end, and that is where we are going to glue the pull tab to this piece. So it's going to be glue on glue, if that makes sense. I'm going to use the grid marks on my mat to make sure that everything lines up well, and then I will test this tab out before I add foam adhesive to secure it to my background panel that we ink blended earlier. Okay, so I'm going to add foam adhesive to the bottom portion of the mechanism. For the top portion, we're only going to add adhesive to the right and left sides for security, but we don't want to block the actual mechanism. We're going to need to add some acetate strips that will help those deer slide together. So that's why we're not going to add adhesive to the top portion of that slider mechanism. Now, before we attach the mechanism, we need to attach one of those acetate tabs. So I'm adding some adhesive, and it's going to slide right behind the pull tab. And then you want the adhesive to stick to the actual belly band, if that makes sense. Because when you pull on it, the belly band is what's going to cause that mechanism to move back and forth. So again, adhesive to the belly band, not to the pull tab. I guess it would work on the pull tab too. But as far as the other mechanism goes, that's going to be on top and that's going to go on the plastic. So adhere to the plastic. Okay, so I've got my pull tab mechanism here. We've got those two sliders going back and forth. Now we're going to add some more adhesive to make sure that there's plenty of room for that belly band to slide back and forth. But for the top portion, you want to make sure that you create stoppers for that acetate strip so that it doesn't go too far off the panel and that the deer don't get too close together that they look like they're hugging instead of kissing. So I've added that, and now I'm going to go ahead and add some adhesive to the top of those strips and then adhere my deer to them. So now you can see they come apart and come together to kiss in the middle. And then last but not least, all I have to do is create my scene using the accessory images that I colored, which are those trees and the mistletoe at the top of my card. Once I add that together and have my scene put together, the last thing to do is to add my sentiment strip. To save some time, because I didn't want this video to be too long, I went ahead and embossed my sentiment off camera. And so now we've attached it to a card base and then our card is done. I hope you enjoyed this card. Thank you so much for stopping by and spending your time with me. I appreciate it. If you like this card, please give the video a thumbs up. If you're interested, I'll be linking 2 more videos for you at the end. And I hope you all have a great and safe holiday. See you next time. Bye.